and the natures of the parcels make it interesting in how we can put the lots together in working with staff. Access off of Moss Lane was not encouraged. They had requested that we take access off of Portner. I understand that right now Portner is not fully developed. The right-of-way maps that you can see, you can kind of see some of the lines, and maybe your staff have some better images of, that's a platted right-of-way, whether it's been fully developed yet or folks have maybe unfortunately encroached on that right-of-way. We see that often in some of these rural areas where over time things kind of creep into the right-of-way. But really what we're looking to do with the property, when you come off of Moss Lane, Portner, obviously we'll be expanding that out. Right now, there really isn't a shoulder, and there isn't much room. This property, or this project will help with that. It'll also help further to the north on our western side of Portner to do the same thing. There were some comments about leave our streets alone, you know, the Bernie subdivision, we want those. Those are public right-of-ways. Those are actually platted public streets. And we are required to make connections to public right-of-way. Initially, when that subdivision was platted, there's actually some right-of-way that still shows up on some of the maps, platted into, Christine, maybe it'll show it here on your map. There, you can see in that corner, it's kind of the little corner that's on the Bernie subdivision there, that's a part of our field. You can actually see how the Meeker goes all the way over to the lateral and then down. So there's actually platted right-of-way there. We're platting over top of that, changing the roadway a little bit. There were some questions or comments about don't make it go through our subdivision, make it go to the north. We were specifically required not to do that. And again, we are connecting to public right-of-way, and that's consistent with typical development patterns. Let's see. Just along Midway and Homedale, so as Rob McDonald testified for the city of Caldwell, Midway actually, there's a corridor study being done, or it's in the works of the design of that. For that plat, we have a concept of what that roundabout is supposed to be, and once those are finalized, we agreed that we would, you know, work with the city staff over there. Those frontage improvements include curb gutter and sidewalk, so we will be providing safety and enhancing the safety in the area along Midway and also along Homedale. Those are right-of-way improvements on the city of Caldwell, very similar to the right-of-way, excuse me, improvements that your city requires, so along Moss Lane and along Portner. So we are trying to do our part to provide for some safety. Let's see. We do have a pathway that will connect along the lateral that goes from the Caldwell piece down the lateral to our other piece and then comes out. Let me see if I can, see, maybe switch to the plat drawing. Thank you. So we've got obviously the irrigation easement. We've got pathways that connect to that. And then there will be a pathway along it. You can see it more on the Caldwell side. Due to the revisions, our landscape site plan wasn't complete, so this is more diagrammatic, but it'll be consistent with what we're doing and will match what's happening on the Caldwell portion. Let's see. Schools, yes, unfortunately, you know, we did not receive feedback when we applied in Caldwell for the Common of Schools. This section, actually this entire project, it's planned that we would start on the Caldwell piece and then work into the Nampa. Of course, it's still the same school district, but this isn't going to happen all at once. And, you know, obviously we're happy to work with the school district. see if there's, designated safe places for bus pickup. I'm, I understand that it's nice to be able to walk. That's not always an option. As the school district solves some of those problems, maybe find some land. That's the first that I've heard that they've been looking. I work on a number of projects, but that they've been looking for land. So over time, that'll evolve and change, and the boundaries will be redrawn. I mean, it's pretty typical. I've seen that happen in other places. But in the meantime, it won't be a bunch of new students all at once. This will be over time, and we're happy to work with the school district any way we can. Let's see. And then also just back to, this was farm ground, and it's just becoming an enclave. It's becoming more and more difficult to farm, and it's not economically feasible to farm a parcel like this in and amongst homes, whether they're ranchettes or other subdivisions that are happening around. There's some multifamily homes that are happening in the area, in the Caldwell area. So when I'm looking at a project, I'm also looking at what's going on, not only in one jurisdiction, but maybe right next door. And so we believe that this project is well-suited. It's the right time as this area is evolving and growing and filling in. And I think that's, I think I've hit on everything, unless you have any other questions for me.
The draining water from the one farmer that's going, I know, I'm an insurance agent, and I know you have to be in control of your own water. If not, you're gonna have some issues. So I'm assuming you guys will be talking to that property owner at that time, and
Yes, that's an unfortunate situation that I think the Wagers family has been very generous to not create an issue with that. People are responsible for their water and managing it properly. Unfortunately, that individual is not doing that. So we'll, according to the testimony, anyways, so we'll work to address that with the owner, with the irrigation district, because really that shouldn't be a burden on our
Right.
owners, so.
And then, so on Portner, you're gonna redo half the road on each part of your parcel, and then were you taking it all the way up to Homedale Road? I'm trying to remember what you said about,
No, so what the staff's recommendation, and this is actually in excess of what would normally be required. So we're widening our frontage along Portner and repaving, tearing up the existing pavement and putting down new pavement. Only from our northern, Christy, can you, so it's about half the length of Portner from there
all
down.
the way down, will be
So
repaved? Okay.
will be repaved, so,
You guys have had your chance for public testimony. We're listening to the applicant now. No, she gets to rebut what you guys have said, so.
so we appreciate their concerns and probably urge them to work with the highway district to see, to address those concerns, and the sheriff's department if there's speed, we feel like we're doing a significant share of solving that problem.
Being county and city, it's hard to mesh those two, I'm sure.
Yes, I do know in various conversations that I've had with different folks that some of the properties south of Homedale and west of Portner are being evaluated for development as well. So I don't anticipate, I'm not speaking any one specific property. So if somebody's in the audience saying that's not my property, but there are questions and folks have reached out about the potential for the development of other parcels. So it is, again, an urbanizing area. It's an area that was designated by your comprehensive plan and your future land use map. We're on the lower range of those densities. We believe that we are in compliance with the code, the comp plan, and we request your approval of annexation. And
What is your timeline? Where are you going to start and where are you going to finish up, and how long will it take you to get from one end to the other end?
So our timeline would be to actually start on the Caldwell piece. So those services have to come from Homedale. So it will take some time just to develop through the Caldwell piece. That also gives, and then we would move kind of to the southeast. So from the Caldwell piece into Nampa, Mrs. Wager's residence is the last portion that we would envision at this time being development. She's in her late 80s. It would give her a chance to live out her time there while the property is developed, and yeah.
Thank you.
I want to just a little bit more clarification on Portner Road, and maybe staff can speak to this a little bit more too. So your portion, you're gonna curb, gutter, sidewalk. Are you gonna widen Portner Road any more than it is now, or just repave it?
We will widen Portner Road along our frontages,
So it'll
so,
be this wide and then pinch point just north of the property.
so,
I mean, that's what I'm envisioning by listening to what you're,
right, so currently what exists is, you can see, and maybe Christie in the other aerial that you had pulled up. So as staff had mentioned, and I think I presented as well, there's different setbacks with fences and right-of-ways that have already been accounted for. So, Christie, if you could zoom in a little bit more, please. Okay.
and
There
I'm
you
looking
go.
at it, I'm looking at it.
Oh,
too, a
okay.
little bit more.
Yes, so as you can see, Christie, if you can shift a little to the south. So there we go. So we've got, right now, our field comes quite a ways in, so we'll be expanding that out, adding, obviously, more asphalt, along with repaving that entire area.
So it will be additional widening of
Correct.
the existing, what is currently paved.
That is correct. The comments of it being a 1 or a 2-lane road, in that area, it will be wider because we are required to build to the city street width section there.
And that's what I wanted to clarify, because looking at this road, it is a 2-bike lane road, looking at it right now. And unfortunately, up north, or north towards Homedale, those homes are a little bit closer to Portland. And I understand the right-of-way and all that too, but that's why I wanted to make sure we got some clarification on exactly where that will be widened with the the gutter and sidewalk and curbing.
Right, yeah, that's correct. So on the west side of Portner, where our property borders Portner, again, that will be widened out, curb, gutter, and sidewalk along there as well. And that section is also repaved. So it's a significant improvement to that right-of-way. I mean, we can do what we can to help make that a safer thoroughfare. Let's see. And then, as far as its north, we did do a traffic impact study that was reviewed by both agencies, both the city of Caldwell and the city of Nampa. Any traffic implications or indications would be contained in there. There was no requirements to do anything north past off-site for us on that.
So that'd be nothing past north of Meeker.
North of our, on Portner, north of our
Which is Meeker.
boundary.
It's basically Meeker.
Basically where Meeker would be.
So from Meeker south, you'll do your side of the property on the road, your half of the road, and not the other half. Leave that to the city or the county to take care of.
That is correct. That's what staff is recommending.
Any other questions for her that,
Probably first step.
yeah, okay, thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you very much.
Daniel? Come on down, Daniel.
You need to ask for a raise after this, Daniel, okay?
We can't take any more comments from the gallery, I'm sorry. Okay, the right-of-way issues, this is county property right all around there, so Nampa City doesn't get into all that until it comes to be annexed, correct?
Correct. I've been looking at those right-of-ways throughout there. There is a 30-foot right-of-way all the way north to Homedale. There are sections that are 45 feet. At varying locations, the properties along the east side of the road encroach with their landscaping improvements anywhere from 10 to 20 feet into that public right-of-way. And so there is room that that can be widened in the public right-of-way, but there are private improvements that have been placed in that right-of-way that would ultimately have to come out to accomplish that.
When they go to get annexed into the city, that's when all that stuff will come into play.
Or if they were to, if the highway district were to do a project to redo that, they would be able to go in and do
Take
whatever they
their-
needed to with those private improvements, remove them and repave through that area.
I got a question for you, Daniel. On the north end of her property or this property on Portner where they're gonna widen it, would it be feasible or maybe a good idea to possibly put in a speed bump to slow down the traffic that's gonna try
Or
to
a
shoot through
wall?
there?
How about just a
Wall, there you go.
barricade?
So on Portner with local roadways, we do allow for the installation of speed bumps. The section north of their property, that will be within the Nampa Highway District, and I know that they would not allow something of
Yeah,
that
I'm thinking
nature.
like right on the, where it's still 4 lane or widened, because you're gonna have that bottleneck right there and you're gonna have kids that are gonna try to race down there. So just before their improvement ends, could they put a nice speed bump there to?
That is
help
certainly something
mitigate
that
the
you
speed?
could condition their approval on if that's something you feel is appropriate.
Good idea, right where the sidewalk ends.
Yeah, just to, I mean, they're gonna go over it and then they're gonna speed up again, but at least when it necks down to 1 lane or two ox carts, you know, they'll hopefully slow down a little bit, so.
Any other questions for
Yeah, the applicant had mentioned about Meeker going through east to Portner, and she mentioned that staff had recommended that it not, but we didn't get a reason why.
I believe she was talking about the portion within Caldwell that they had required or did not want it to connect to the portions within the city of Nampa.
Oh, okay,
I believe that was the statement that was made.
Shaking her head, yes.
okay. Thank you for that clarification. And then on the lower portion of the project, where the horseshoe down by Wager's property, what is the reason why that couldn't empty onto Moss instead of back onto Portner? I think what the gentleman's comment over here was, why is there ingress, egress both onto Portner?
Can you go south a little, Christie? So if that were to connect there, we would want to see it line up with the entrance there to the Moss Point subdivision. There is not necessarily a reason from a staff perspective that could not be designed in that manner.
Except it would go through their living room, probably.
It would go through an existing structure, yes.
Okay, but since that's the last to be developed, it might be a few years down the road. But anyways, yeah, okay, I just want to make sure that it wasn't staff saying, no, it has to be this way only, but it's a design, more of a design. But if that's the case, we want it to connect to Moss Point. Rather than offset
If they were,
those.
yes, if that piece of property were to have a public street come out onto Moss, it would need to align with the entrance to Moss Point.
Then you're gonna have another entrance, it's gonna be even more bottleneck getting in and out of Moss, because you'll have Portner for the stuff above.
Yeah.
So,
You're looking at me like I had something else.
Just waiting to see if there were any more questions.
Any other questions for staff? Entertain a motion to close public.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Yeah.
It's been moved and seconded to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, public hearing is closed. Okay. Kind of a tricky one.
Yeah.
yeah. And it's tough to, after somebody's lived on a property for 85 years, to tell them that they can't, at this point in their time in life, that they can't do something with it. A lot of us don't like growth. Unfortunately, it's here. We can't do much about it but control it. That's what our future land use maps are for, is to kind of dictate where certain things are going. I know you guys like it out in the country. You've been out there for years, but the growth is going that way. And our job is to kind of help make sure it goes in the right direction and it fits. I personally like the layout they've done. I think it looks good. It has some different aspects as far as the size of the lot fitting those houses. I'm currently in the process of designing my own house with a 16-foot RV bay and a 2,500 square foot house, and I just pulled up the plans. It's 66 feet across, so you need a 75-foot wide lot to fit something like that on. It's a single level, so it's a big footprint. So the lot sizes will definitely hold those kind of homes that you were looking at. So, I think you guys have done a good job at respecting the owner's wishes after 85 years, and I think it's a good project, and I would certainly vote for it.
Anybody else have any comments?
Nobody else can say anything? Thanks, guys.
No, but I do want to bring attention to one of the comments that we made that was sent in here because this was very unique. Their suggestion was to have 2 raised bed planter boxes in each yard if this was approved, filled with topsoil. Kind of offset the loss of agricultural land, so I thought that was kind of a unique suggestion. No, I wish Portner could be widened all the way through to Homedale to accommodate the traffic in there, but it's just not feasible to ask the developer to do that all the way through. And someone had mentioned, I think it was you, sir, who had mentioned that development should pay for itself, and that's exactly right. That's what we are looking to do, that's what we want to do, but without the development, there's nothing there to pay for any improvements to traffic. And again, it is a catch-22. You need the development to pay for itself, otherwise there's nothing there to pay for anything. And things will just deteriorate and it won't get any better. It's unfortunate, but that is the reality that we live in.
We can't have any public testimony right
I
now.
suggested the wall. I didn't know if it was gonna fly or not.
Want to make a motion?
I want to sleep at night, so I'm not making one.
Matt looks like he's got something he's thinking about.
No, I would just echo what's been said so far. It's a difficult situation to balance the rights of all the property owners. You know, you guys are all property owners, but the owner is also a property owner, and you know, they have land rights, and so we try to balance that. We try to weigh the public opinion, and so we do take this job seriously, and we appreciate the people that come out and express these things because it gives us information on which to base our opinions, and so we appreciate that. But
You guys are,
Anything else?
it's up to you.
I think go, Tom. I think all of us are of the opinion that we appreciate your input in the struggles that you feel, but we all see the merits that are behind this development, I think, and so I would agree.
Okay. Then I'll move to recommend approval of the annexation and zoning to RS6 zoning district, potential development agreement, and preliminary plat for Wagers Dairy subdivision, including 67 single-family lots and 13 common lots at 16645 Portner, 11568 Moss Lane, and 0 Wilma Lane for NV5 Bonnie Layton representing Lee Wilson, with all conditions listed in the staff report.
Do you want to put that speed bump in there?
And this, yes, the speed bump, please. Thank you.
Again.
That's the only good
Who
idea I had.
seconded? Michelle, okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve with our extra conditions. All those in favor?
Aye.
Well, again, I'm biting my tongue, but I'll say yes.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, so this doesn't go to city council. Right? This is us, not city council, right? Or is it going to city council?
That's a recommendation.
So it's going to city council. So they'll put it on their calendar and you guys can go testify again. And, you know, maybe in the meantime, if there's some stuff that you want to talk to the developer about, you know, reach out. You know, they try and be as accommodating as they can within the property rights of the people they represent. Okay,
Sir,
we're,
sir,
we're
please.
done, sir.
It's not. It's not about money.
No.
We get $25 to do this?
I don't know. We're not getting, nobody's getting.
I'm not getting any of that money.
Okay, we're gonna go to public hearing number 1. Do you want to take a break for a minute? Okay, we're gonna take a 5-minute break.
Let's take, yeah, let's let it clear out.
We need bodyguard.
Okay, we're gonna start.
I don't remember.
Where are you going?
Where are you going?
Wait a minute.
Oh, no,
you're not.
No, you're not.
We're still here.
I need to recuse myself from the last. Have a good Thanksgiving, Christy.
Have a happy Thanksgiving and
Well, that's what I said too.
work on that lot 7, would you?
Go to the bathroom.
Okay.
You live with one. How long does it take to go to the bathroom?
We're waiting for one more person, I guess. There she is. Okay, so we're gonna hear item number 4, and then we're gonna go back to item number 1.
Gonna make Rodney stay here all night, aren't you?
Yep. We'll just do
Hey, you
it.
get paid the big bucks.
That's right. Okay, the zoning text amendment for Nampa City Code and professional public self-storage facility design regulations. Woohoo! Sounds riveting.
You guys are excited, okay. Madam Chair, Council. So my name's Casey Jones. I live at 11701 West Cross Slope Way here in Nampa. It's relevant, but I'm also the marketing company president for U-Haul Company of Idaho. I oversee from Eastern Oregon out to Jackson Hole. Got about 180 total locations. We have a store here that's been here since 1979. I'm sure probably most of you have probably been there, over on Caldwell Boulevard, 2112, Caldwell Boulevard. And we're at a phase here where we're really probably 20 years behind where we need to be. Our number one complaint is customers just coming in and out of our property. I mean, the property looks like an airstrip. It's a quarter mile long and 250 feet wide. It's 10 pounds of crap in a 5-pound bag over there, basically. So we really want to invest here, and we want to grow, and we want to be in the 21st century. And so as we were working on coming together with a plan, we found some abutting property that we really like to develop. But then we kind of came across as we're doing our due diligence. I'm under contract to buy this right now. So really, I'm doing my due diligence right now. And I don't know if we're going to close, because we got to get through this if we are, because we can't do anything. So the current ordinance, is it considered an ordinance, or is it a? Okay, so it is an ordinance. So basically, you can't build another storage facility within 2,500 feet of another storage facility.
Correct.
Unless it's a pre-existing building and you're going to do climate control storage, which I'm pretty sure, and you guys can correct me, we have some big box stores here, and we didn't really want to alienate any potential suitors for those buildings at the time. I would imagine that was in consideration when that exception was made, and it makes sense. I could also tell you that I do like the ordinance, so I'm not against the ordinance. I actually think the ordinance is a great document. I live in Nampa. I don't want another storage facility, especially out by Red Hawk Golf Course. What I want is I want a coffee shop. Give me a coffee shop out there so I don't have to drive down to Karcher and get a coffee, or 17th Avenue. What my proposal is, we don't want the standard storage product everywhere. And when I say standard, when we think storage, what are we really thinking? We've got these slabs of concrete, contractors come out, throw down, they build up these buildings. It doesn't increase the property value. It doesn't bring in jobs. It absorbs your guys' commercial property, which is valuable. And we need more good businesses here. And I'm kind of stuck in the crosshairs here, because I have a multi-dimensional business where, I got Linda here with me. She's my manager at the store. And she's just begging me to help her. Storage makes up 18% of her business, but it's a vital 18%. And if we're gonna pencil out any kind of development, it's gonna have to be a part of what we're doing, but it's not gonna be I rent trucks and trailers out. And I install hitches because we rent trailers out, and that's an accessory. And if people are gonna be moving with U-Haul trucks, storage is a necessity for them during their transition. I'm gonna be building a multi-story, beautiful, climate-controlled storage facility with load-unload doors. You could drive right into the building. It's not gonna be the storage standard, what you guys see, of these just concrete slabs and buildings in an office with one job. Currently, I have about 20 mechanics in Garden City, and we're outgrown there. I've got 400 trucks, almost 400 trucks, dedicated just to Idaho. They don't leave the state. Plus, I have the influx of the equipment coming in and out. And we do all the maintenance in Garden City in a 6,000 square foot building. I mean, it's about as bad as Nampa is over there. So, you know, my proposal on this property, I'm gonna be bringing in a brand new shop. I'm gonna be bringing all those plus more jobs over. I wanna maintenance my fleet here in Nampa. I just have a different product and a multi-dimensional business. So my proposal, it really is just like, hey, yeah, okay, climate controlled storage and a pre-existing building, great. And or what if it's just an accessory? Doesn't take up 25% or more, and it can't be your primary business. I don't think that's gonna open the door to the storage product which we see. But it'll crack the door for a business that's just a whole lot more. And it's actually gonna develop our property, bring value, and bring jobs. I will say that Rodney revised my original proposal. I wish he'd given that to me before I submitted my own, because it's much better. And so, you know, I do defer to him and what he came up with, and with that, I'm open for questions.
It is your fault that all these people are moving into Idaho.
Well, I would blame city council for making a great city.
The storage unit, or the U-Haul over on Orchard and just south of Fairview,
That's mine, yes.
is that the type of storage unit that you're looking at? It's climate controlled, it's indoors, it's kind of a smaller but multi-level?
Sure. So, yes, it is, to be frank.
Just trying to vision the.
Right, yeah, and I don't have any renderings.
Sure.
But, you know, I do have them, I just wasn't prepared for it. But, yeah, and that product is already 5 years old. And just in 5 years, as we're investing, it's sharper than that. And that just, also, that property doesn't have indoor load and unload.
No, it doesn't do it.
Right, but our new product does.
Did I understand you correctly? You have a facility now in Garden City, right? That's where you do all your truck repairs.
Yes.
Are you wanting to do something like that similarly here in Nampa? To take care of your Nampa inventory? Or is that still gonna be done over there and you're just gonna do storage of household products?
Sure, so yeah, my current preliminary site plan on the 10 acres is gonna be a replacement shop for Garden City. It won't be a secondary shop.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm gonna actually just completely shift it, you know? And it really, it's a dime a dozen, because coming in from Boise, right now, if you wanna get off the interstate and get down to the Garden City location, it takes you just as long to keep driving on the freeway and take the Karcher Road exit. And so me being on the interstate, it'll be more cost-effective, it'll lower our carbon footprint, it'll lower our transfer expenses. And most, you know, to be honest with you, most of my mechanics live in Nampa. They can't even afford to live in Boise right now.
Oh, we don't mind taking the business from Garden City.
How many units are you imagining?
For self-storage? Well, it's probably gonna be a 3-story. I don't have the elevations right now.
Sure.
Probably a footprint of, I'm guesstimating right now, so don't hold me to this, because it's all preliminary, but 30,000 square foot footprint. I'm hoping to probably get 80,000 net rentable out of a 30,000 footprint. And then underneath that building, we'll actually have our retail, we'll have our hitch bay. So it kind of looks like, you know, as you see a business that has apartments above it, you know, it'll be storage with our actual business operations underneath it.
I know we're asking details on that, which I know that's not
Well,
what this
yeah, no,
agenda item is. This agenda item is to amend the text to an existing ordinance.
Sure.
But that being said, the property that in question is where it currently is on Caldwell Boulevard, and that's gonna be expanded, or are you gonna move it completely from that site?
Yeah, so we call it the Neftech property. So it's think it's 4 curb cuts down. I could hit a golf ball to it. So yeah, it's 10
So
acres.
it's the same vicinity there.
Right, and if I had the map, I could show you, but I mean, the way the properties lay out, on the back end, there's just one little triangular, 1 acre parcel that prevents them from being abutting.
Ronnie, do you have a map that you could show us?
Google.
I could bring up a map. The application is not for that specific property.
Right.
Right, and I do want to reiterate, because I live in this town, I don't really want the current storage product, I don't want any more of it coming in. I'm in this business, and I've met people, we were in the process of buying Citadel self-storage, which then sold to somebody else, and it became Extra Space, and now it's public space. But just talking to those people, they're like, yeah, we're just gonna be buying in Nampa, it's, it's cheap, buy farmland, throw up buildings, we're good. They don't care, and it was like the storage capital of the world 3 years ago, 2 years ago. But the city council stopped it, and I don't want to reopen that door. Even as a residence here, and even as a business owner, I really just don't want to reopen that door.
But knowing
Right,
the
what you were going,
location and the reason for helps us, at least me anyways, put in perspective why this is coming before us now in this agenda item. And I think you're probably not gonna be the only one that might be affected by this, so it puts into perspective kind of your concept and the reason why and all that, so. That's all.
Okay, well, we'll hear from Rodney and we'll,
Then we'll have the public hearing, and then we'll see what they say.
Okay, thank you.
okay, Rodney.
All right. Okay, Madam Chair, and Commissioners, the request before you is a zoning text amendment of the Nampa City Code 10116. That was previously changed. It used to be 10119. Professional public self-storage facility design regulations, and specifically Section A3, the locations allowed to allow exception to the minimum 2,500-foot buffer between storage unit developments for new storage units that are accessory to another use and do not exceed 25% of the total property. Okay, so I'm going to give you some history on this. There's a lot of history. Frankly, I hope at one point in the future, I don't ever have to address this code section again. Maybe we'll get to that
Well,
at
they say
some
we do it
point.
right the first time, and you won't have to do it again.
All right, so June 3rd, 2019, City Council adopted the storage moratorium. We've kind of already addressed that. The concerns were taking up industrial land, commercial land for storage units that don't have a ton of value to them and that don't create jobs on those properties, very many jobs at least. And so highest and best use, that was their concern primarily. August 26th, we had, in 2019, we had a joint meeting with yourselves and council, and I think Design Review was actually there as well, to consider some code changes, including a 2,500-foot buffer. I was asked to at least present that concept. September 16th, 2019, the Planning and Zoning Commission had their first public hearing for the proposed code changes after that workshop. And listed here are the things that you recommended. Removal of the condition that a conditional use permit be required from City Council. Number 2, the requirement of a 150-foot setback from a list of major roadways be changed to state that the city may require a setback of up to 150 feet from the roadway. Number 3, remove the requirement for the 2,500-foot buffer. You felt that it was an overreach of government and should be left to the market to decide how many storage units get developed and where they should go. Number 4, remove the requirement for residential roof pitch appearance. So after that recommendation on to City Council considered it on the 4th of November, and they approved all the changes except, as recommended, except for the requirement that it go to, the CUPs go to City Council. So that continued on to City Council at that point. Several months followed and multiple storage unit requests came in after this code change. City Council didn't feel like they had the ability to restrict storage units as much as they wanted to. So they directed staff to go back to the drawing board and it requested that we look at that 2,500-foot buffer as well as other conditions. So August 11th, 2020, the Planning and Zoning Commission, you heard this again, and you recommended denial of that 2,500-foot buffer. August 17th, 2020, the City Council public hearing was held for the buffer, and they voted to approve and directed staff to come back with even more requirements that they could restrict storage units. So September 22nd, 2020, the Planning and Zoning Commission had a public hearing considering these new options that staff brought forward. And you made the following decision. So we brought forth 4 ordinances at that time with all kinds of different alternatives, and you denied the first one, which was to an ordinance to prevent any new storage units to develop. And you just said we need to let the market regulate that. And ordinance number 2, returning conditional use permit approval authority to the Nampa Planning and Zoning Commission. You recommended approval of that one. Number 3, ordinance requiring new storage development to use a minimum of 25% of the property for uses permitted in that zone other than storage and located between the storage facilities and the roadway, but not to exceed 150-foot setback. So essentially, that ordinance was, let's make this mixed use so that it's not just only storage units. And you recommended denial, arguing that to require 25% an alternative use than what the developer intended is unfair and discourages development. Number 4, ordinance eliminating any new storage unit or RV boat storage from located in the city of Nampa boundaries except in the IL zone with the approval of a conditional use permit. You recommended denial, but you've changed it to allow more than just the IL zone. You said the BN, BC, GB1, and GB2 zones would require the conditional use permit. And essentially this removes the 3 zones from the land use table that would have allowed the storage units to go in, the BF, IP, and the RP zones. Okay, so that's the next one. October 19th, 2020, the City Council had their public hearing, considered your recommendations, and they approved that the CUP for storage units shall require at least 25% of the property be used for something other than public storage facilities or public storage office. These uses still being required to be consistent with the underlying zone. Said other use shall be located between the public storage facilities and the public road onto which the property fronts. So that essentially they adopted that condition that it be a mixed use development, but limited that required alternative use would not be in excess of 150 feet back from the roadway. So they adopted that and essentially denied everything else. So it would continue on to City Council still. Okay, so that's a lot of history. Let me just touch real quickly on applicable regulations here. We don't typically see a lot of zoning text amendments come from applicants. We usually see those come from staff. But our code does allow that to happen, and that's the situation here. Essentially, you just have to find in your recommendation that it's reasonably necessary in the interest of the public and in harmony with the goals and or policies of the adopted comprehensive plan. So again, that's critical in the decision we make today. Is it in harmony with the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan? Is it reasonably necessary and in the interest of the public? Here's the section of code about the buffer. It's 2,500 feet from any other storage unit or boat and RV storage, except for the temperature-controlled buildings if they're pre-existing buildings, and they're inside those pre-existing buildings. Okay. I received no correspondence on this request. Okay, so in the application, I didn't see a lot of justification for how those specific conditions of the code are met. So again, the interest of the public, reasonably necessary, and compliant with the adopted comprehensive plan goals and policies. So I didn't see that. Doesn't mean that there isn't any, but I question that. The decision must be made on those conclusions of law that we just pointed out and consistent with the comprehensive plan. So the comprehensive plan, what does it say? There's several sections, but I think this one was the most relevant. 8.5, storage units. Nampa has experienced rapid growth. It kind of just talks about the situation at the time and the city council's will to not allow a lot more storage units. They were concerned about the impact to the community. They were concerned about the highest and best use. So that's what the comprehensive plan talks about. There's no specific goal stated, but this is the narrative in the comprehensive plan. So just another concern that I saw in the application, and I think it was pointed out already by the applicant, that the proposed language may not create enough clarity here about what constitutes the total land area to apply the 25% of allowed storage space to. So I've tried to diagram this here. If it's 25% of the property's square footage dedicated to a land use of storage, it would need to include all of that 25% makes up the entire, you include the roadway, the access drives all around the storage units. So you're really limiting those storage units to a fairly small area because you have to have that front area as an alternative land use, right? So the alternative to this, you could interpret this to say 25% of the properties, I can't read it on my screen, square footage dedicated to the storage building structures, still put the alternative land use out in front, but you're not including all those driveways in there. So my concern was we just need to clarify that. So I'd suggest that I think in the staff report, I outlined a proposal of how to do that. I did want to highlight this just to make sure this is clear. The alternative land uses that have to be present, the city council has said they can't be related to the storage units. They can't be like an office. And they said an office for the storage units. They said specifically, we don't want offices that sell boxes for people going into the storage units. We want it to be something else, a different land use that is allowed by that underlying zone.
But Rodney, in this case, would it be a shop, a mechanic shop?
But it's for the same company, so would that?
Yeah.
So a mechanic shop is a different land use entirely.
So it would
It
fit-
doesn't matter the company, it matters the land use.
But it would fit this scenario that we're talking about right here.
Yes, because it's a different land use. As long as it's allowed in the underlying zone, that would be a different land use, yeah. So, I think, did I address all those? Okay, yeah, I did. So if the commission votes to recommend the text amendment, staff suggests the following change, and I've tried to make this clear by just highlighting it in big blue letters, what I'm suggesting, to clarify that language about land use making up 25% versus the storage units making up, or the actual buildings making up the 25%. So that's what you see on your screen here. I'm sorry you can't see that very well at the bottom, but
Now, where they had multi-level, we just talking about the driveway that leads into the main entrance of that facility then?
Ask that again?
So I'm thinking, so we're talking 25%, but if they go a multi-level storage facility, then are we
Square
just counting
footage?
one level of that for the square footage?
Yeah, I guess I wasn't thinking about the multi-level situation here, so maybe we need to modify this language.
I can see the driveway, going into the front of the building, but if you go into the front of the building and then it's, let's just say 5 stories of storage, you have to count each level as its own square footage, and then,
So,
Should just be the footprint.
that's what I'd say, just the footprint of
It'd
the.
just be the footprint, because if you go up 3 stories of temperature-controlled, climate-controlled storage, I mean, if you started adding every level up as square footage, your building's gonna be the size of a closet. Because you gotta keep it under that 20, it should be the footprint, would be my recommendation, but.
but you wouldn't have, are you suggesting that the multi-stories, that it would be dedicated to an alternative land use? Or would it be both, or would it be 2 land uses? Is that what we're saying? That one would be storage unit land use
No, you'd be counting your 25%.
off
So
of the footprint?
Because that way, it doesn't matter if it's a single level storage unit or it's multi-story.
Right.
It's still the square.
I see
footage
what
of
you're
the
saying.
footprint.
Yeah,
But like you said, though, if the overall building is, let's just say 5,000 square feet or 10,000 square feet, and it's a shop, and then they have storage above, is it a dual land use for that footprint? And then,
yeah. Yeah, good questions.
I mean, this is an interesting situation,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure. I mean, we can work on this language however best you think.
But if they're repairing their own vehicles and they also put trailer hitches on private parties' vehicles, and then you have the storage, so that's 3 different things they're doing there. And then they sell boxes and
plus
all,
selling
and all that
boxes
other
and
stuff.
else.
Yeah, again, I would argue that those things like repairing vehicles and putting trailer hitches on is not an office for storage units.
Right. And it's 2 separate they have their own trucks, and then they have the people that come in, like my dad
Yeah.
took his truck down there and got his trailer hitch put on.
Right.
So it's,
Yeah. So,
You could separate it, so let's say he wants to put the shop, and he wants to put, say, 2 stories above it. The shop would be figured as 1 square footage or something, and then when you go to the storage space above, you would figure out the footprint of that. So if it's 5,000 square foot shop, and there's 2 stories above it that are 5,000 square foot each level of storage space, you could consider a 5,000 square foot shop, and 5,000 square foot of that, another 5,000 square foot is storage space.
footprint.
Yeah, so same building, but you'd have 2 different footprints because you would switch from the shop to the storage
Yeah.
units. So then you could consider a
Right.
storage unit. 5,000 square foot is part of your 25% storage unit space.
And so maybe when it's a multi-story building with multiple land uses, it's factored in by the
Footprint.
square footage of each
Each use.
use. Yeah. I mean, if that's the recommendation you want to make, that's
I know it
up
gets
to you.
confusing for you guys, but
City council still holds the CUP power for something.
They
like
do.
this, right? So in this particular case, could the applicant theoretically just go straight to city council on a I mean, if they were to, without the text amendment, they could still maybe do what they want to do through a CUP at city council though?
Good question. Commissioners, right now, I would not even entertain an application for a CUP if it's within 2,500 feet of another one. They couldn't even go before city council. So they need this text amendment in order to have the opportunity to go before city council. Okay. So, again, I just want to point out that based on city council's will expressed in their public hearings, expressed in the workshops, expressed in the new code that they adopted, and expressed in the comprehensive plan, I feel this is inconsistent with that will that they've expressed and inconsistent with that language that was placed in the comprehensive plan. It's contrary to what the city council has
You're
said.
talking about the proposal is
The
contrary.
proposal tonight is contrary to what the city council
Yeah,
has said.
I see that it is too, but I understand what their situation is, and it's a unique situation. I can't imagine other people would want to do the same thing that they're doing. Most people don't have trucks and so forth to worry about, or maintenance to worry about. They,
Well, and this is gonna bring jobs to
Yeah.
the city too. I
Yeah.
mean, we gotta look at that. If they're willing to move something from Garden City to Nampa, and it's a business, and it's gonna create jobs, and it's gonna, I mean, this is the kind of thing we're looking for, right?
Yeah, so I mean, in my opinion, I know there's a lot of work went into this
God
whole
is
thing.
speaking.
Yes, sir.
Oh, sorry, I'm still here. But a perfect example of market conditions dictating what is highest and best use for properties, right? And I know there's a lot of work and council has their wills and things, but we've kind of tied our hands and now we're trying to work around something that's a great potential project that we imposed restrictions on land use that they can't do it, the market can't do it. So
Well, and I
It's-
don't think we haven't tied our hands.
I was gonna
It's
say
city
the
council
same
who's
thing.
tied
It
our
wasn't us that did it, it was city council that did it.
that's exactly what I'm saying,
Yeah.
right?
hands.
Property values have gone up and at a certain point, storage facilities are gonna go multi-story. You see it in every city as they
Yeah.
develop. The reason there's large sprawl of storage units around the city of Nampa and Caldwell is because land's cheap and you can afford to build them like that. But I'll get off my little box so we can keep going.
I think we,
It's hard to figure out how to handle it because it's council's decision anyway, right? This is a recommendation to city council of a text amendment because council gets to decide that, right, Rodney?
That's correct.
Okay. I don't know.
But even if we recommend this approval and the city council does go along with us,
They win.
yeah. Anything else that would come before us or before them, is still gonna have to have a CUP, right?
That's correct.
To do
Yep.
exactly what he wants to do. They're
That's
still
correct.
gonna have to get the approval of city council for the CUP.
Correct.
So we could recommend approving this, and they may approve this one, but if somebody else comes in with some other harebrained idea, they don't have to approve it.
That's true.
not that this is a harebrained idea.
With another harebrained idea.
With some other.
And I think we all agree with what Ron was saying, and
Yeah.
this is, I think we kind of foreshadowed what might happen, and here it is, kind of playing out in front of us.
Well, I think it's important for us too, and we've all had discussion about this before. We look at, I think, we tend to look at things from a little bit different perspective. 'Cause we're not worried about the next election.
Right.
We're worried about what
Although you have to get
what we-
reappointed,
What we
right,
think is
man?
best for the city. And not just as commission members, but as citizens. And we don't have to worry about that next upcoming election, that if we don't do exactly what this specific person wants, they're gonna get everybody in their neighborhood and everybody they know to not vote for or against. So I don't know, I think it's important for us too to, you know, if this is how we really feel, then we need to not be afraid to tell city council, this is how we feel as a commission. And if they disagree with this, then we've seen it before, that's okay. We can be adults but I think it's important to say, hey, this is still how we feel. It's always how we felt, and we're not gonna change our minds.
I agree, and it takes some pressure off of planning and zoning staff, because now you have a commission, appointed commission that is separate from staff that works for the city type of a thing, and this is how government works. This is what I love about it, is that you have some bodies may disagree with each other, but that's how it works. And I agree with Brett. I think, and it's not just gonna be this particular applicant, it's gonna be a small auto dealership that may decide that he's got all this property and wants to put a second use on his put 3-story storage unit on there. And here we're back to the same issue, so. I don't know what the wordings should look like, but
So then, do we vote on this, or do you need to revise the text?
You could revise the motion that's stated here to include kind of a direction to staff to try to come up with some different language there. Just maybe a little bit of clarification as to what you want to see. If that's what it sounds like that's the direction you want to take, so.
Was that, Tom, like what you were talking about then?
Yeah,
You think
so-
that's the best
yeah.
way to approach it?
Yeah, so each different, if there's 2 or 3 different businesses,
Applications.
land uses in the same tower of building, each different use would be considered as a footprint. So if it's 5,000 square foot building and the bottom is a shop and you got 3 stories above it that are storage units, it would be 5,000 foot shop and 5,000 square foot of storage unit because it's all gonna be the same footprint. But it's different land use. You wouldn't consider it as 15,000 square feet because it's all
The only,
same column.
the only problem with that is, like I was telling Matt earlier, you get to a point where now you start doing the math and you end up with 130% of what the overall footprint of the property is.
you have more.
And
Yeah.
now where do we go with it?
Well, they still got to do the CUP, so they could be limited to 2 stories or 3 stories, or they could be restricted that way. I mean, we're not going to allow them to do a 10-story storage.
I don't know, I think since it's multiple, different entities, different businesses, different land uses. It's weird. How to handle it and make it.
Yeah, because if you do it, if you do it as 5,000 square foot building and you got 3 stories of storage unit, instead of, if you figured it at 15,000 square foot that way, but then if it's a single story building, it's, so then I think if you do it as separate land uses, the same footprint, and leave it up to the CUP, and they can have different restrictions on it at that point. Say, no, you can't go 5 stories, you can only go 3, or.
Do you have any comprehension of what we're saying?
Well, I just want to point out that we haven't done the public hearing
Yeah.
portion yet. So maybe we should go to, finish that and then have this, have this discussion.
Well, I guess, open up for public hearing.
Okay, we'll open up public hearing. There's nobody signed up. Is there anybody present that would like to speak?
Come on, Daniel, come up and
For,
give us your
against, or undecided?
Come on, Daniel.
Come on, Daniel, what do you think?
Okay, I need a motion
Put
to,
her on there in favor.
yeah,
Yeah,
you can come up now.
can
Yeah,
rebut.
we'll let you do your thing.
About everything that staff has said.
I just,
I did want to bring up with the city council, because I know you guys are going to potentially be brave here and send this to them. When they first approved this, they sent this back with the conditions that, one, they ensure the storage units are required to be developed with other land uses and mixed uses. So then the question is does this amendment to this ordinance, is that going to spur mixed use? And I would say it does, because it has to be an accessory and it can't be less than or more than 25% of the property. Brett, you were talking about the footprint, or actually, I think, Tom, you were talking about the footprint. Rodney, I'm just recalling from our previous conversation, that footprint is what determines it, not the elevation. So if you go with a 40,000 square foot building and you go 3 high, you're gonna have a 120,000 square foot building. But it's consuming 40% of the property. But the reason why we're gonna build up is that's our product. We don't have this product in the city at all. And so if you guys want this product in the city, you just show me on a map anywhere that's a 5-star location that's within 2,500, not within 2,500 square feet of another storage facility. Please show me. You've just cut yourselves from even having this product. Unless you want me to go build a 3-story building out on Greenhurst, and I'm not going to do that. So another one was an option for removing the ability to construct new storage units in the city of Nampa. I don't think this is going to untie your hands and make you a victim to storage product coming in still. I think you're still gonna have the control that the city council wanted to be able to prevent things like this from happening. And then the third one was any other reasonable options to limit the proliferation of storage unit development in Nampa. I think we're gonna fall within that. You're still gonna have every reasonable option you guys already created in the ordinance to still prevent any new storage product coming online. I think this is just gonna put you guys in a position where you can, accept a really good product and business in your community without getting the typical storage product that we've seen. So this is a preliminary site map. I just sent it to Rodney, just for talking points. I know this isn't really about my project, but just to kind of give you guys a concept of what I'm looking at. This is 10 acres. That storage building would fall within 25%. On the back end of the property will be our shop. So the shop, I didn't know if anybody was confused. I'm not gonna have the shop below the storage product.
It's gonna be a separate structure.
It's gonna be a completely separate structure. We have to use a lot of space back there because, I'm gonna have at any given time, I'm gonna have 700 to 800 pieces of equipment rotating through that shop 2 to 3 times a year.
So the storage is gonna go above like your office and
Retail.
all the retail stuff, right?
Yeah, so on the storage building, on the bottom right corner would be our retail, and our retail is a lot of things from even bike racks to cargo to, of course, the boxes. We have a lot of different retail, and it's not just geared for the storage customer. It's dealing with a lot. People who come in and buy wardrobe boxes. It's the largest box you can ship with UPS, and they're sending their golf clubs to Hawaii, so they're there when they, you don't know what you're gonna get. And then we have a hitch bay right next to it, and a receiving dispatching. So that's the hitch bay. That's where we're gonna do our hitches and.
Is that there? I just want to make sure I'm following your
Yep,
conversation.
yeah, you're there. You're on it,
Okay.
Rodney. You wanna lead? You can. You got this.
No.
And then if you go further over, you'll see a blank space right there. Yep, that is our load and unload. So that's where the trucks will actually, customers during the winter, you just pull right in. And there's gonna be an elevator, people go up and down. So you aren't gonna have people parked all along the building, loading and unloading into storage units. And another thing, not that traffic is related to this at all, but Linda just saw somebody get hit pulling out of our property the other day. We have 2 curb cuts, which if the city had its way, we wouldn't have one.
It's so awkward.
Right, it is awkward, it's awful, and then you just, right next to us is another curb cut to the human being, and you have the light it's,
It's hard.
so, lowering the traffic there is gonna be great. It's gonna be great. So, I think we pitched this to the city council well. I think we have a good shot. That's my thought, that's my
If we can
opinion.
get the wording correct.
Yeah, don't leave that up to me.
I think just move across the street and fill in that old Kmart
The
building.
Williamson farm won't sell that. Oh, trust me, that's where I'd like to be. Well, we were under contract over at the Burlington Coat Factory, because that would have fallen into this. But storage is my secondary use. Tell me how I'm gonna do my primary use there.
Yeah.
It's not gonna work. I'm not gonna just go do storage only. But this is really, I really think that this is gonna keep the storage-only businesses out of this. And it's gonna open up the door for new business. And like you said, you could have an automotive shop and you have a whole bunch of acres behind you and you wanna put in, even if you just wanna put in 10 units back there. You don't wanna go up, you just 10 units, just one row. I just need the extra income, I'm trying to put food on the table. Wouldn't you rather have 30 small businesses with 10 to 15 storage units behind them than having 20 storage facilities with what we got right now?
300 units.
You just decentralize everything. Just have a whole bunch of neighborhood service type locations. So if somebody wants to do that, great, it's their property.
On that rendering up there, or the map up there, the plat map up there, the green is your property line, right?
That would be our property line, yeah. That's just preliminary landscaping right now.
Well, yeah, beside that. So what will you do with the rest of the land? Is that for storage of units, of trucks and trailers, or what's gonna occupy the rest of that property?
Sure, well, in this project, you can see some lines that are in front of the retail area that are going a whole bunch of parallel lines. That's what we call shunting, and it's an important term I like to use because it keeps me away from Rodney trying to tell me I park my trucks. Shunting is a term used by the railroads where as equipment comes in, you rotate it through as it's going back out. So that's our shunting area. As equipment comes in, you kind of prep it for the next dispatch as it goes out. And then, of course, you have your frontline display where we'll have equipment up there.
I'm thinking, I guess, mainly the area to the top of the map up there. What, it's okay, a lot of open, yeah, all that area around in there, what's that gonna be used for?
Oh, and trailers all over the place.
Undetermined, Steve. I have no idea. I have no
Well,
idea.
will you come back before us later on and say, hey, I need some more storage units?
Hey, you know what? When we go through that CUP hearing, if I get there, I'd be happy to have that conversation with you. What are we gonna do there? I don't know.
Coffee shop, Steve. Put human beings.
No, not down there. We need that out by Greenhurst. That's where we need that.
For answer anyway.
Make a motion, we close the public hearing.
I guess he's tired of hearing you. I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Do we lose Ron?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Any opposed?
You woke them up.
Okay, so public hearing is closed.
We'll just keep it with your verbiage that you have, the changes. And then if we have to revisit it down the road for the footprint and figure out other avenues, we can do that at a later date if we need to.
If that's
We
possible.
have to amend it again for some reason.
Do you think it's gonna need to be clarified or cleared up for city council? Is that what you're concerned about?
Yeah, so I guess if I go back to this slide here, it almost feels like what we're saying is this one,
Yes.
Yes,
and
the footprint of the building.
it's the,
But it's gonna be elevate instead of across.
Which one did he pick? The one left or right? I didn't see him. Which one did he pick, the left or the right? Okay, that's what I like.
yeah, so this one would include the aisles and the
Okay.
drive. But in the situation we're talking about, if it's all in one building, there's multiple uses in one building, that I feel like it's almost, I don't know how you divide up the aisles for the storage unit purpose or
Fair purpose.
or other purposes, right? And if it's 25% of the land use, well, it feels like that drawing that we looked at was actually kind of primarily, even though it's different than what we've seen in the past, it looks like it's primarily storage units,
Well, but
right?
his shop's gonna be out there and that's a totally separate structure.
Yep, absolutely, understood. I'm just saying that when I think of a primary use on a property, I think of, I'm looking at the property, I see it, and I'm thinking, I understand what the primary use is. If I were to look at this property, I'd think storage units, and with a side business of mechanical or whatever, you know. I'm not saying I'm not trying to disagree with you. I just am trying to clarify that language because it almost feels like we need to change that code to clarify a situation where we have multiple land uses in the same building.
We need to define how we're coming up with the land use percentage first.
Mm-hmm.
And until we do that, we can't proceed. Because if you're looking at the whole piece of property and it's only 25% of the whole piece of property, that's one thing. But if you're talking about what structures are all out there,
Exactly.
that's another thing. So you have
Yeah.
to have that definition.
So is it 25% of the entire property?
So that was my recommendation, was to use this one on the left and say 25% of the property. But if this building right here is multiple uses, what's 25%? I'm not sure how we factor in that land use, because I would be counting the drive aisle to get back to the back of the property, because the other land use is supposed to be out in front, according to that code. It couldn't be that, it couldn't be storage units being the main thing shown.
Define then, in this instance, do we have to define, what width a drive aisle would be? Because, you could say, okay, from the front of the property, we have to dedicate a 20-foot wide drive aisle back to where you enter the building, and then the actual footprint of the storage area.
Right.
I mean, I know it's the same building, but it's a storage area of that.
Mhm.
You could define, I don't know.
Well, it's almost like you're talking about the concept of leasable space, right? You have the actual storage units, but then you have all the other things that go into it, which could be drive aisles, but it could also be the elevator, it could be the walk aisles on the levels where they're at, anything that's associated with that use.
Yeah.
And so, it's a concept of
Landscaping,
anything that's
gonna be on the property.
storage or ancillary to it. 25%.
I'd say inside the building envelope, though, other than the drive aisle.
Yeah, and again, your drive aisles, we're trying to think of not just this situation,
That's-
right?
I keep thinking
That's-
you're painting details that we're not gonna be
Yeah.
able to know down the road.
Right, at some point, you have to think about, we're gonna have to think about these aisles, and, it could be that these storage units, just like a typical storage unit, goes in just like this shape, and this blue is the drive aisles around those storage units. And is that included in that 25% or not?
So there's another situation out by where I live. There's a piece of property, the last I heard, they were gonna put storage units on it. It was before the moratorium, and they were gonna put a restaurant on the property
Oh,
also.
yeah.
And so how do you figure that? What is the restaurant, the 25% of the rest of the property? And are you counting those rows and things like that? So,
But that had to be 25% was storage unit, it was 25% of an other business. So this is
Right.
just
So
exactly
your
the
parking,
opposite.
your landscaping for that other business would be your 25%.
Yeah.
Right?
So this is just opposite.
so
Yeah.
do you look at primary versus secondary business, and you say 25% of the primary business will be allowed for the secondary, just throwing
Yeah,
language
and
out
I think
there?
that's what they're requesting, and that was
Right.
the
And
application.
then how do you determine what is the primary business?
That's the
on
question.
there? Well, then you would, at that point, they would have to bring, the applicant basically would have to bring
Financials.
their business financials and say,
Right.
look, 75% of my business is trucks and rental trucks. 25% is storage. Man, do we want to get into those? That's why CUPs are so nice sometimes.
I don't think we want to get into that.
No, you don't want to get into those weeds, and because you're going to be doing that for every single applicant that comes up.
I'm
So
gonna go
then,
home. You guys call me when you get deciding on this, okay?
so, because even their primary business might be larger than their secondary or their secondary business, or their secondary land use might be quite a bit larger than their primary. And they may be making a lot more money off of the restaurant than they are the storage units, but,
Yeah, depending on how you define
Right, that's-
primary.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is there,
Does it feel like we're gonna finish this tonight, or does this feel like it needs to be continued with further
Yeah.
discussion?
We still have another application to go through.
but is there any other, I mean, in your research and years of going through this issue, are there other jurisdictions that have defined what primary business is in a situation similar to this? Meridian, Caldwell, any place
I
like
can't
that?
think of a specific situation related to storage units, but yes, they have defined primary use. And it depends. It really depends on the city. Like if you think of a residential as a primary use, you wouldn't have a shop out back that, you know, you're working cars out of it or whatever that, that is just massive and 3 times the size of the house, that makes you question, what is the primary use there? But, however, maybe it is just as big as the house. And, you know, I know a lot of people who have a really big shop. And so it just depends on the city and how they define it. So,
So is that the hangup right here, that we're kind of stuck on, is what's primary, what's secondary? In order to define that, then we can look at the percentages, right?
Well, it's not, I don't even think that it's the primary or secondary thing. It's it's the property square footage. It can be no more than 25% of that. So we just have to define how we're coming to that square footage. Is it the ingress, egress to the storage and the footprint, no matter how tall it is? Then we just define that and put that in there and.
I like
Yeah.
that. I like that verbiage is ingress, egress to the facility plus the footprint of the facility. Whether that's drive aisles or whether that's encapsulated in a building.
Right.
Because basically a drive aisle at a standalone storage unit is no different than a walk aisle inside of an encapsulated. So
And have it
It's
still be an
covering-
ingress, egress.
you still have your ingress, egress to the facility.
Into each one of those doors, so that would include all
Yeah.
the drive aisles, so.
Yeah.
Good verbiage. I want to see him get his business out here, because anything we can bring this side of the county line is good.
so I'm just going to restate what I heard.
Okay.
You make a
I think it
You
was,
think you heard?
yeah, what I think I heard. 25% of the total property area can be dedicated to storage, public storage, and that includes ingress and egress to the facility and plus the footprint of the building dedicated to storage.
Perfect.
Yes.
I like that.
So just, I'm sorry to do this, but if all of the first floor is dedicated to an alternative use, like
And that-
offices, then storage units on top, there's nothing there dedicated to, or that doesn't make up any of the 25%? Storage units don't make up 25, any of the 25%?
No, because, you know, then you'd have, so if you have the main level and maybe the next 3 stories are in 3 feet, or, I mean, just, you know, their footprint's just slightly different. You're just gonna use the 5,000 square feet from there for the second story, and that's it.
Whether it is a full 5,000 square foot or not?
Yeah, so if the main level is 10,000 square feet and we're
Okay.
gonna put on top of that 8,000 square feet of storage units and take it 4 stories up, it's still gonna be 8,000 square feet.
Right, 8,000, not the 10,000, but the
Correct.
8,000.
What it truly is.
I think what he was saying though is because it's a different land use on the bottom floor, do we count? But I think you have to take that other land use and kind of throw it out the window for now, because it's
Yeah.
not about other land uses, it's about the overall 25% of that
Property.
piece of property. No matter what else is there,
Okay, okay, got it. I think we can, think we could work with that if you want to make a motion.
No one wants to make a motion on all that.
I'll make a motion, you're gonna have to add that verbiage, because you lost
She
me.
said, yeah.
What's written on your paper right there?
So I'll move to recommend approval of the zoning text amendment of Napa City Code 10-116, professional public self-storage facility, design regulations, A3, locations allowed to allow an exemption to the minimum 2,500-foot buffer between storage unit developments for new storage units that are accessory to another use and do not exceed 25% of the total property, with all conditions listed in the staff report, including the ingress, egress, as well as the footprint of the building or dedicated to storage. Does that work?
Rodney can clean up the verbiage.
All right, I think based on our discussion here, I think that's probably enough.
And can we point out to the city council when you bring this to them that this is a good potential of bringing some decent paying jobs to here?
Do you want to put that in your motion?
No.
Yeah, I'd like them to know that
We
we're,
can do a sidebar with city council.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to recommend this text language amendment to city council. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's going to city council, and if they can decipher what Rodney does, then,
I said aye.
yeah, everybody said aye.
I thought we were gonna have a fight in the parking lot.
I'll have to check the record now.
Thanks for hanging in there with us.
thanks, guys.
Wait a minute. Now you have to stay for our last one. Oh, okay.
This is no. Fees. Okay, public hearing item number 1. Yay, Rodney, let's do another one.
Nothing like starting at the end or beginning the whatever. This is the fun one, yeah, this is.
You can go ahead and let everybody in, Daniel, for the comment on this one.
Yeah.
Oh, there's,
Busload of.
oh. Well, they were just having some very loud discussion when,
Make sure that one guy's gone.
yeah, they were still out there.
Yeah.
when she left, so.
All right, Madam Chair and Commissioners, I'm going to go through this as fast as I can. You have a lot of information in your packet. We've done several studies on this, and we included a consultant who looked at our fees. We came up with 5 new fees, and I think I've listed those here. Property boundary adjustments, staff review variances, CUP, and variance extension fees. We've only had extension fees for final plats, but it takes just as much work for us to go through the process. So master plan communities, they're new in our code, and accessory structures under 200 square feet. And all of those are identified in our code that we recently adopted, what City Council recently adopted. Just a quick note, City Council has emphasized the need to have growth pay for itself. Nampa's Planning and Zoning Department has traditionally charged fees far less than the actual cost of processing applications. We continue to do that, and frankly, the proposed fees are still less than the cost of doing it, of processing these applications. However, city councils in the past and planning and zoning commissions in the past have found that at some point we need to, the city, in the city's interest to not charge an exorbitant amount for some of these applications that affect a single income elderly gentleman who wants to annex their property. It becomes really challenging when you cover the full cost of that. And so as part of doing the business of a city, sometimes these fees are lower than they would otherwise be if they covered the full cost. So we did a fee study. We did 2 approaches. The first one was just internal. We did a lot of work on this internally, and we averaged our. I've outlined this in the staff report. I'm going to kind of skip over it.
Yeah.
Read through it.
Galena Consulting did a similar study, but it went at a different direction, and we essentially found the same thing. We need to increase the fees, and those are stated here. Those findings. So we recommended the findings that are on the screen, compliant with our code, and here are the possible motions for your
Rodney,
consideration.
before you get there.
Yeah.
Some of these, I think it just doesn't make any sense to me. You're saying for a mobile home park, final plan, $375 plus $25.79 a lot. Mobile home park pre-plan, $5.98 a lot. Why can't you go 2 more cents and make it?
That is a great question. We have discussed that, and some of these fees, you can see that we tried to do that.
Yeah, but these, like $5.98. I mean, 2 more cents, you couldn't gone up and make it even $6. When you
So-
guys try and do these in your head, how do you remember the prices? Oh, that one's $5.98. That one's $5.97. Yeah,
No, we
okay,
don't.
well, but make them all even. Just take away the 79 cents and the 98
I'd be happy to
cents.
do that. Commissioners, the only reason I didn't change some of those is just because if it was close to what we were finding the cost was, or we didn't want to increase it much, we just left it alone. We didn't want to touch it. And so if you want to recommend that we just round up to the nearest dollar, that helps us.
Yes.
Actually, rounding up to the nearest $5 would help us. Even
That was one
more.
of my other suggestions, so yes, $5 is fine by me. I mean, it just, it's
Well, that
silly
would
amounts.
need to be in a motion.
Okay.
Open and close public hearing.
I'm surprised at how little some of these fees were in comparison with the other
Yes,
cities.
me too.
I'm surprised how you guys continue to do business.
Yeah, I mean, from a business perspective, this is really very, very poor that you have such low amounts, low figures.
Well, you'll notice too in the Galena Consulting study, they found that the building permit fees were a lot higher than they should be. And so we're in the same budget fund. And what that means is that when it goes to a building permit, they're collecting fees that kind of offset what we haven't collected in planning and zoning. And so we're being subsidized by the permit fees, essentially. It's a little strange. I was surprised to hear all that. I knew we were under, but I didn't know by how much, and this was kind of surprising to me.
Okay, we're gonna open public hearing. And there's nobody signed up. Is there anybody present that would like to speak for, against, or undecided?
Sit down.
Make a motion, we close public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is closed.
Hey, Rodney,
Yes.
as a developer, can I vote on this stuff?
Yes.
It's not,
I believe so. It's not a specific project that you would benefit from.
Right.
Yeah.
Unless I say I vote no fees for,
Yeah,
Anyway.
exactly. That's what I was thinking.
no.
Just word it, we could just
No,
word it so
we need to raise fees. It's crazy that we run the budget like that. We should even it out and get everybody standing on their own 2 feet, but that's a bigger process, so.
Rodney, I got a question for you. If I read this right from Ann Westcott at Galena, she thinks we've got like about a $4 million excess that we need to draw down. Is that correct?
No, I don't think that's accurate. I think those were comments from Patrick Sullivan, who is the building department director. And it's not he's saying that we are being subsidized, the planning and zoning department is being subsidized by the building fund, essentially.
Okay, it wasn't
But
her.
it wasn't 4 million. This study was done for building permit fees and fire fees and planning and zoning fees. And so it was kind of some of those comments were in the context of the overall fees for each of those departments. And I think it's in there. I think it was somewhere around 700,000 we are being subsidized every year,
Okay.
something like
Okay.
that.
if we make the zoning map amendments higher, then maybe we'll have less of those come in. No?
Another comment, I'll make a motion, get this evening over with.
Okay.
I move to approve the fee schedule resolution as proposed with the exception of rounding everything to the nearest $5.
Well, yeah, wait a second, because so like 25.79, you're saying take it down to $25?
No, round it up.
Well, 25.79 to the nearest $5 would be 25.
Okay, round up to the
Yeah.
nearest 5.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You'd be going down on some of these.
Rounding up.
Rounding
Going
up.
up.
Okay.
To adopt
So
new-
we'd go to 30. Yeah.
To adopt new and updated fees for planning and zoning applications, permits, annexation, de-annexation, appeal, comprehensive plan text and map amendments, conditional use permits, short preliminary final condo plats, home occupation permit, kennel license, legal non-conforming use, mobile park, final preliminary planned unit development, master plan, community property boundary adjustments, RV park vacation variances, limited staff variances, zoning map amendment, extensions, permit for accessory structures under 200 square feet in the city of Napa, planning and zoning.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the fee schedule resolution and adopt new updated fees for planning and zoning. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's it.
Thanks.